So today I filmed 6 pieces of an audition. I did this to myself, it's my fault, and I am saying now that I'm never gonna do it again, but honestly I probably will. Hi again. So if you saw my video about doing 162 auditions in 1 year, which I highly recommend, I'm only a little bit biased, I'll link it over there. You may be wondering, how does one manage to record that many auditions, like average 2 to 3 auditions a week, without losing one's mind? And to that I would say, I cannot be sure that I didn't lose my mind, but I do have a couple of different techniques, strategies that I use to make sure that I can make tapes at scale with as little extraneous effort as possible. So that's what I want to share with y'all today. So technique number 1 that I suggest for recording auditions at scale is batching your auditions. That's essentially what I'm doing today. I'm already wearing makeup, and in real life I usually don't. So whenever I have makeup on, I try to make the most of it by batching auditions. Sometimes this will not be an option. Like sometimes you'll get something and you'll need to turn it in tomorrow, and that's that, and you can't really double up on anything. But a lot of the time, again, if you have a couple of auditions a week and or a little bit more time in between the audition and the actual due date, you may be able to batch, which is nice if you are lazy about makeup and hair and stuff like me. And I think you can be a little strategic about this too. So today I filmed 6 pieces of an audition, 2 scenes, 3 songs, and a dance. I did this to myself, it's my fault, and I am saying now that I'm never gonna do it again, but honestly I probably will. But a little bit of strategy there that I like to use is, for example, if I have something like really vocally demanding, or like if I have multiple musicals, I'll maybe do demanding songs and easier scenes, and then easier songs with more demanding scenes to try and like split up the most difficult things. Or if I have a big packet for a musical and then a one-liner for a TV show, chances are I can power through that one line. Like literally a couple weeks ago, I had an audition that was 4 words, not even a full sentence. And that's the kind of thing, fortunately, that you can bash out right after you've done something else. So I really recommend doing this whenever possible. If you really love to break out your ring light every single day, maybe that's okay with you, but I find that I get a sense of momentum. I kind of get in a flow when I am working on auditions. So I do kind of relish working on a lot of them in a batch. So yeah, suggestion number 1. I also want to talk a little bit about my taping setup. So I have my little backdrop. She's a pop-up. I also have a blue-green one, but I really like this gray. And actually I'll link you, there's another actor on here who did an amazing video about different backdrop colors with different skin tones, and I found that gray would be the best for my skin tone, and I think it looks really nice and really professional. So I make my tapes at home in the same setup as where I make these videos, and the backdrop is really wonderful for that. So if you're ever in a place that has a lot of clutter, which frankly I do, the beautiful backdrop allows you to appear like you're in a beautiful studio. And then I just have like a regular ring light, although it does have some silly colors and things. You can see some of the, silly colors. Actually, this is another useful kind of setup thought. If you have a ring light with many different settings, maybe jot down what the settings are that you like to use so you don't have to do any trial and error. You just know. For me, I am in neutral, not warm or cool, but neutral, with actually the lighting turned all the way down. It turns out I don't like too much like brightness on video. It's not as fun for me as a little more just like subtle front light. But whatever it is that you like and whatever works in your house with all of your lighting, figure it out and stick to it so you don't have to think about it. I'll dig up the links to these specific things. Maybe I'll see if I can figure out an affiliate code, but I had rather not give Jeff Bezos more money. So I guess look in the description to see if I figured that out. I try my darndest not to tape outside of the house. Living in New York, finding space to record things is so expensive. Oftentimes it's 15 up to 30, 40, $50 an hour if I'm thinking about a dance studio. So whenever I can record at home, I try to do so. Lately, I've been doing my dances at home with the rationale that only sometimes will I be that much better at dancing with more space anyways. I also believe that there are some specific things that you can do in terms of your appearance to make your taping experience a little bit easier. So I have a handful of shirts that I use for my tapes, and that's nice because if someone asks me to like record some scenes from a specific show and then send a song that I have sung before, like something from my book, a lot of the time I am able to just wear the same shirt, same hair, same makeup, so the tape looks cohesive even if I filmed it on completely different days. I really, really recommend that, especially if you find yourself pulling from the archives a fair amount. This is also good for slates, which I will talk about a little bit more later, but if you always kind of wear the same thing, then you can recycle your slates and not have to film them all the time, which is kind of nice because slates are a pain in the butt, especially full body slates. Oh my God. So yeah, I recommend having a little baby wardrobe of things that you wear. And I mean, depending on the piece, like if it's a period piece, maybe I would wear a different shirt than if I were going in for something really contemporary. But I try to keep that wardrobe really small so that I have maximum reusability for everything. Oh, and for hair, I oftentimes will do an updo, which is just a little bit more predictable, especially like curly hair, natural hair. Sometimes when I wear her down, it's like the the wind was blowing westward and humidity was 59% yesterday. And so now today you have a bad hair day. Updos are a little bit safer for taping for that reason. Even if it looks a little bit different, it's easier to appear the same with an updo. And my makeup is also always the same. Every so often I'll do something really makey-uppy. The majority of parts I go in for are not like super, super glam anyway, so I don't really feel the need to do anything too wild with makeup. I guess like if you really needed to have your sides and songs makeup look different from your slate makeup, I don't think anyone would fault you for that. But if you're a casting director and you have thoughts on that, let me know. Oh, and then this is maybe really sneaky, but if I'm really, really, really in a time crunch and I don't feel like I have time to even do makeup, occasionally I will throw on a filter. 99.99% of the time, I do a whole face for really reals, but yeah, if I'm really stuck and I'm like the 15 to 20 minutes I need to actually do makeup is not possible, then I will do a filter. Although sometimes putting on a filter and making sure it doesn't look whack is almost as labor intensive as just doing the makeup anyway. So listen to your heart there. I think that's everything I wanted to say about appearances. Yeah, I'll talk more about slates later. Onward we go. So now the big thing I want to think about is ways that you can use technology to make your audition life easier. And the one I want to start with is archiving. So I keep all of my self-tapes. I don't keep all the raw footage, but I do keep all of the completed tapes on the off chance that I want to recycle the material for a specific other tape, or if I want to re-edit my reel, which I desperately need to do. I have an archive where I have labeled the tapes. Honestly, I should create a better naming convention, but what I do is I have archive folders on an external hard drive that I have marked by year. So my tapes from 2021, 2022, 2023. And then, yeah, when this year ends, I will dump all of my 2024 tapes into the archive as well. I guess I could do it running. Maybe I should do it running, but anyway, this allows me to find relatively quickly what each tape is. If I were really, really smart, I would update the names of the tapes once they're in the archive to include the name of the project, like Hello Dolly, Dolly Levi, side 1. So yeah, I would say be really intentional about naming your files so that it's super duper easy to find. So if you're like, oh, I remember when I sang Hello Dolly and it was so great and I want to send it in for my audition for Carousel too, then it's that much easier for you to find in your hard drive. I'll also say for my archiving, if there's any audition I feel really, really good about or something that I book from, I will flag it with the little like color code. I'll paint it red to remind myself that that's one that I really like and will probably end up pulling from for future auditions, reels, whatever. So yeah, that's what I recommend in terms of like file management. And then coming back to the thing about slates, again, full body slates are a pain in the butt. So if you have your self-tape wardrobe established, then what I have done, I've kind of like done this accidentally over time, but I have a couple of slates marked out as the ones that I usually use, the ones that have my typical self-tape clothes in them, so that when I need to slate or if I forget to slate, I can just grab one from on file somewhere and throw it in the video and it fits right in because I'm already wearing the same shirt and I have the same hair and makeup. So yeah, slates and full body slates, I like to hold on to. I would maybe put those into their own files and name those after what you're wearing or even what you're wearing in your hairstyle. Cause yeah, like sometimes I have straight hair if I've just gotten a haircut. So I will occasionally use a straight hair slate versus a curly hair slate. Again, just for consistency, even though I secretly didn't film it all on the same day. A lot of the time, casting will ask you to confirm certain information in slates, and you should definitely like follow instructions as best as you can. But I don't think there's any major reason that you need to like put on a whole other outfit and read a whole new script. Like chances are, if you have a slate that you want to recycle, you can just throw on some text on top of it and that's just as well to communicate whatever information they need. But if you are a casting director and you object to that, give a shout, let me know. Don't let me spread unhelpful information here. Okay, so something else that I do for my self-tapes when I make them at home is that I use my computer as a teleprompter a fair amount of the time. Sometimes I'll also use my iPad as a teleprompter. iPad and computer talk to each other really nicely, so that can be a helpful hack. And I have seen real actual casting directors say, yes, use your computer as a teleprompter. So I feel completely absolved of it. I know there are certain people who memorizing is part of their process and I love that for them. But for me, being really worried about where the words are going to come from has a negative impact on my performance. And I do find that a lot of the time I do end up like mini memorized anyway, but for security, I will use my computer as a teleprompter. And if I am standing or something, I will use like a wireless mouse to scroll. You can also get an auto scroller app. I've seen a Google Chrome plugin that will auto scroll documents for you, which is nice. If you're the type of person who works with a reader like on Zoom, what you can have them do is share their screen with a script on it so that you can read it off there and then you don't have to worry about scrolling or using an auto scroller. I'll also flag that auto scrollers are less than amazing. I've tried before, but I don't love them because if the pacing of the scene changes really drastically, you might end up getting lost and then that totally defeats the purpose of using the prompter anyway. I'll also say that like using a teleprompter is a specific skill that is worth developing. So whether or not you use it on like theatrical auditions versus commercial auditions, it's still a skill worth having. So I get a lot of practice with it. There are also like full-on teleprompter apps where you can like copy text and paste it in, but sometimes if you're working off a PDF script, it can be difficult to import those, which is why I think the auto scroller, like the scroller plugin or scroller extension for Chrome is maybe a better option than a full-on separate app. But it depends on what you're working with. Like maybe it's possible to totally memorize entire packets of material, multiple entire packets of material a week. Again, at scale while also having probably at least one, but maybe more than one other job. But if you are not that kind of person, if that's not how your brain works, do not feel bad about using your computer as a teleprompter. If you advance in the process, chances are you will want to dig deeper, and that will likely involve getting off book. But I will say that I have booked some like Zoom callbacks reading off my computer. So I say do what works for you. Do what allows you to do your best work, which is going to be ultimately different for everybody, right? Oh, and I'll link to the casting director who talked about this as well. I'll dig it up somewhere. So another technology thing that I do, I use my computer as a recording device. I'm a Mac user, my phone is an iPhone, so they talk to each other very nicely. Over the past couple of years, the feature is called handoff, and you may notice it, your phone will ping when you open up a recording option on your computer. I've seen it for Zoom as well as for QuickTime Player, which is what I use. So I'll record my screen and show you what it looks like, but essentially I am able to select my phone as the camera. And I do this because my laptop camera is nowhere near as nice as my phone. I used to use the front camera on my phone, and that was like fine, but the back camera looks better. And so when I have my back camera on my phone as my webcam, I am able to see nice full screen on my laptop what I'm looking at. I can make adjustments, I can fix my shirt, whatever. So that is something I really, really recommend. I'll say I've not been able to figure out how to flip it. Sometimes when I look at my image, because it's not mirrored, it's disorienting to look at, but easy enough to figure out. So I really recommend using this feature because I used to just film everything on my phone, and then my phone would get really, really full and really angry and do horrible things like stop recording in the middle of a take. And that's a big bummer. So yeah, at this point for Mac, Apple users, I do not recommend using your phone camera. I recommend recording in QuickTime, selecting your phone as the option. Another reason that doing all of this on the computer is nice is because when I taped on my phone, I would have to like remember what order I taped stuff in if I was doing lots and lots of materials. But on the computer, I am saving things. I'm typing file names, so it's really, really easy to find the right take, the right, oh, this is the scene, I'm gonna edit the scene now. This is the side, I'm gonna edit the side now, without having to look at the like IMG file and guess what that means. So we love to use the computer. Windows users, let me know if this is a feature that you can use, like leave a comment so that people can see how they can make that work. Sadly, I only know how to make it work for Apple. Although I do know that sometimes Windows has better webcams, so maybe this isn't a problem for y'all anyway. But I digress. Okay, something else that I've started doing recently that I think is useful is essentially slating for myself when I'm doing multiple takes, because I tend to record multiple takes all at once rather than chunking them out. If you do it differently, let me know and tell me like why, so that I can decide whether I want to do that too. But what I'll do is just like hold up a number and do the scene, just so that when I save the recording, I'll remember like, oh, take 2 was good. And then I'll write like scene 1, use take 2 as the file name. And it's that much easier to find take 2 when I go in to edit it. That is something that I've been using recently that's been pretty helpful. So I don't have to go back and like rewatch the whole thing and scroll and try and figure out what I was doing and what I was talking about. I can just see like, there's the 2. Okay, that's where I gotta start and trim from there. Really recommend that one. So yeah, when you use your computer as a recording device, your computer tends to have more space than your phone, so you have a little more slack, a little more leeway to record a lot of stuff. That said, at a certain point, it will be time to delete stuff, because I find like I record the raw file and then I export the actual clip that I'm using, so that's like taking up at least twice as much space, maybe more if there are like lots of takes on the original. So I actually need to go through and delete a bunch of old takes. And because I edit things in iMovie, I need to make sure to go into iMovie and delete files as well. I use QuickTime Player to record, and that saves things by default in documents. So when I'm going through and cleaning out all this stuff so that my computer doesn't get angry and explode, I will take the files that I submitted to casting and save them in my archive on my external hard drive. I will take the raw footage and delete it from wherever it lives on my computer, and then I will go into iMovie and delete the files inside iMovie too. Because when you work in iMovie, the default setting is that it like makes a copy of the file, which means that it's taking up twice as much space on your hard drive, which will probably slow your computer down and make it very angry and yell at you. So when you go through and clean these up, that is the process that I recommend. I don't currently have a regular file cleanup process, but I should probably do it like every quarter or something. But yeah, delete those old files. So then some other technology thoughts that I have are working with a virtual reader is great. Like there are some Facebook groups that you can join, and I'm sure there are other groups, or there's definitely an app where you can find readers and you either like, I don't know, kind of barter reading for each other, or maybe you pay someone a small fee. And I think that's awesome, especially because your virtual reader might be able to scroll for you if you're using your computer as a teleprompter. But I will say sometimes, again, under duress, when you have lots and lots of auditions, when auditions come in on super short notice, I will, from time to time, record the other person's lines in GarageBand, Mac user, and that will be my process, rather than texting everybody I know to see who can read for me, rather than forcing my roommate to read for me because they don't deserve that. I also work on auditions at super chaotic times. I try intentionally not to film them when my roommates are at home, which means that a person who could be a reader is not in the house. So I say, again, maybe take this with a grain of salt, but I definitely had like one big audition where I recorded the other person's lines, and casting was super nice, and they just had me like come in and do a session with them, and they read the lines before they escalated it to producing to whomever. Ultimately, my really hot take is like, if they want you to play the part, they will let you play the part. The technology stuff doesn't really matter. Another challenge of recording the other person's lines is that pacing wise, you don't have a lot of flexibility. So again, it's sort of an interesting process thing. I find that recording the other person's lines helps me get more solid with the lines themselves and understand like the rhythm of the scene. So I think there are definitely pros to it, but your mileage may vary. Something else I have played with is using a voice changer to make it sound like somebody else is reading the other person's line, when really it's just me. I don't know. If you have like a good app for that, let me know, because that could be really cute, just to give another layer of like professionalism. And if you do this, I suggest leaving a little bit of time at the beginning of the recording before anybody starts speaking so that you can get settled, drop in. I'll take a minute and I'll show you like what I make my screen look like. If I am using my computer as a teleprompter and recording the other person's lines, I have finally, after many, many, many years and auditions, figured out like a good and useful screen setup. So I'll share that with you. You'll probably see millions of tabs. Don't worry about it. It's very chaotic up here. But yes, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about today. I am pretty sleepy after doing lots and lots of audition today and making this video for you, but I love you very much, and like, comment, subscribe, share this with somebody if you found it helpful. Drop any tips that you have in the comments below, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye.